Hello and welcome to the apocalypse. My name is Meagan Mermaid and I'll be your guide for today. Oh, wait. Is this the apocalypse? I am Meagan Mermaid and I teach feminine energy with the magic of the mermaids of Sirius. And today we're going to talk about the new moon in Taurus. But even though I'm sort of joking about where we're at, we are in an unprecedented time in human history. And in many ways, we are repeating the past lifetimes such as Atlantis and Lemuria and all of the fear and the tension and the separation of groups of people and ways of being and at the same time that there is so much suffering that's occurring, there's also this rise of consciousness of group energy of beings that are coming together to say no, we will not put up with this, we will not go along with this, we will not turn a blind eye to this suffering. So, in all of this happening, where do you stand? Where do we stand? And so Isis is joining us. So today we're going to talk about the new moon in Taurus, and we're also going to kind of give an overview of what to expect in this lunar cycle using my deck, the Mermaid Empowerment Oracle deck. And we're also just going to allow whatever needs to arise because really this is a crazy, turbulent and chaotic time, and it's very important that we allow ourselves to acknowledge the severity of the situation on this planet, but at the same time allow the space for the energy of grace to come through, that regardless of how dire the circumstances may look, that we are also at a place of deep transformation, of rebirth and renewal. And so this moon is sextile to Saturn. So we just got out we just got out of a very tumultuous period with Mercury being in retrograde, with the eclipses, all of that happening. And so now this lunar cycle is kind of giving us this grounding and stability. That's really what I feel with the energy of Taurus. It's a groundedness of like, okay, yes, all of this is happening. And yes, there's all of this creative energy buzzing, but what do I do practically in this moment? How do I get into my body? How do I balance this work and play? Because Taurus works hard, but also plays hard. And so we really have to tune into how to enjoy the human experience without turning a blind eye from those who are suffering in the human experience. And this is really a dance, it's an alchemy, because in mermaid consciousness, we're here to take the suffering and alchemize it into beauty. So a perfect example of this is the other day I saw this dove, a mourning dove, and it was dead, right? And it must have hit a glass window because it was right next to the window. It didn't appear to have any wounds that were visible. And so I took that bird, and there were people around that house that were telling me to throw it away or this and that, and just being so deeply connected to nature and working with goddess energies like the Morgan, who is kind of like a death doula. I took that bird and I brought that bird to the tree that's on my patio, and I buried it, and I placed all of these beautiful red daisies and seashells. And even though it may have felt insignificant, it was just a bird, right? I wanted that bird to rest peacefully. And from that death, from the sadness, from the grief of a life lost, bring beauty. And that's sort of what we're doing. We're taking everything that's happening and using it as mud for our lotus. And so in this new moon, sextile to Saturn, it's kind of like, okay, it's time to get to work. Yes, the earth is burning. Yes, there is all kinds of calamities and chaos and turbulence that's happening. So how do we start to combat all of the situations that are occurring by bringing in more beauty and more creativity? And a lot of that has to do with becoming comfortable and safe in our feminine energy. So what I've noticed, there's a lot of trends that are happening, such as the 4B movement that originated in Korea and that we're now talking about in the US, and this trend going on of like Would you rather be lost in a forest and come upon a bear or a man? There's kind of like this energy in the feminine right now of feeling like enough is enough with the patriarchy and with the masculine. And so it's almost as if some women are saying we don't need men at all. And like it's okay to acknowledge that. But, you know, as we've learned in previous incarnations, it doesn't work to try to regain power because of a loss of power. And that's sort of what's happened, where for many, many eons, the patriarchy, the masculine has been in this space of power and the feminine has been suppressed. So regardless of if you identify with a man or a woman in your own body, we all have these energies within us. And so the masculine is an energy of doing, it's an energy of you know, external action, and the feminine is an energy of receptivity, it's an energy of intuition, it's an energy of being rather than doing. And so, of course, if you feel like a part of you has been lost or disempowered or suppressed in some way, of course there's this part of you that wants to fight back and to regain power. But that's not the answer. Tipping the scales to where the feminine overpowers the masculine is not the answer. The answer is going to come from this deep embodiment of the divine mother. And from this deep embodiment of the divine mother within all of us as a chalice of God consciousness, we'll be able to locate the grace and the compassion that's necessary to bring through solutions where we can come into a place of balance and unity for all aspects of us, all aspects of humanity, all aspects of the earth. And so there might feel some urgency right now of like, well, we got to do this now or everything else is going to fall apart, right? And yes, it's okay to have those feelings. But again, we have to trust. I'm Meagan Mermaid. I'm your guide for the apocalypse. Today we have buildings burning, but we also have the power of grace coming through to bring forth divine solutions from the mermaids. The mermaids who embody the energy of air, which is the mind, water, which is the intuition and the emotional place, and can swim and breathe in both realms. So what we have to do, in addition to allowing and feeling safe to embody this mother archetype, we also have to allow both aspects of our masculine and feminine energy to become in balance. And we can do so by beginning to strengthen and embody our sage archetype, which is a feminine energy about the mind and intuition and bringing things, or not intuition, the mind and intellect and bringing things forward, but from an intuitive space. And then the lover archetype, which is this primordial energy of creation and beauty and sexuality and embodiment. And when we bring these two together, because ultimately what's happened is these two aspects of the feminine have been severed. And so we have been experiencing this search for this part of ourselves, and oftentimes we may have done so by searching in relationships or maybe looking in career or whatever it is. But ultimately what we have to do is begin to strengthen and embody all of these feminine archetypes within us. So the sage archetype is what allows us to have focus in our life, have direction, and that's what I feel like this new moon sextile to Saturn is allowing us to do, is like we can hold the creative power of the lover archetype within us that's going to bring in the creative ideas that we have. And then our sage archetype is our ally. It's going to say, okay, great. You have this idea for a course or a book or an offering. And so here's what we need to start doing. Here's the goals that we need. Here's what we need to accomplish by this time. Here's when we're going to meet and we're going to do this task. And then we're going to do this task. And so it's sort of like combining these two energies is going to allow the foundation for our creativity to flourish. And then once you start to put things out into the world that creatively are, that you're responsible for, like as a soul, you've committed to bring forth some type of beauty, some type of creativity, some type of vision that is unique to you. And it can be as simple as the way that you embody the feminine energy in this world, and, you know, just vibe and be with what is, or it could be something more specific, but whatever that is, you're here to bring it forth. And so the more that you try to search outside of yourself, rather than devoting the time and the focus and the energy to cultivating and birthing that creative being into existence, the more unfulfilled you're going to feel. So let's talk about all of the kind of energies that will help us with this. So I'm going to be doing a new moon spread, and I do this every month, and it's kind of like a read of what we're going to experience with every stage of the lunar cycle. And so we start with new moon, and that's where we set our intention. Waxing moon is that first quarter moon, where we might experience the first kind of challenge or initiatory experience that allows us to overcome blocks or resistances to receiving that intention that we set. The full moon is when the light of the moon is brightest. It shines what we may have missed. It helps us to reach the space of completion. And it also allows us to see things clearly so that we can continue to move forward, make adjustments where necessary. Then we have the third quarter moon, or the waning moon. And that's kind of like when we start to tie up all of the loose ends. We act upon whatever insight we were given at full moon. And then dark moon is kind of like that resting period, the 3 days before the next new moon, where we receive integration, and we kind of tie up the whole month, the whole lunar cycle lesson. And then we sort of get the theme. So the dark moon is kind of the theme of everything that we're going to be experiencing. And so when we kind of walk through this roadmap of every lunar cycle, it's automatically going to put us into our feminine energy, because we're following the cycle of the moon. The moon is an intuitively feminine energy. It's connected with the ocean and the tides and all of this really beautiful feminine energy that's also deeply connected to mermaids. And so let's start with the new moon. We have gratitude. And so the mermaid empowerment for gratitude is, I have an attitude of gratitude. And this is a great thing to do to start off this lunar cycle. Is, yes, there may be things that you want to change. And yes, there may be things in your internal, external, individual, collective life that you see that are not the way that you would like them to be. But the way that we begin to make changes is to start by having gratitude, this attitude of gratitude, by seeing already what we have, already what we can be grateful for, that, there's sun, that we woke up for another day, we have clean water, we have food, we have a roof over our head, we have a laptop, we have social media where we can connect, we have all of these tools, we have clothes that we can adorn ourselves with, we have fragrances and candles that we can use to make our environment more inviting and more enticing. We have so many good things, so many things. And another thing that we can do is be grateful for all of the ways that the universe has worked out every single thing that we've ever been worried about ever. It has always worked out, or you would not be here in this moment. And then we can even be grateful for the challenges that we have now, because they are propelling us on this quest through the lunar cycle to become even more embodied, even more fulfilled, and even more on track with our mission. So then as we move into the waxing moon, we have freedom. And the mermaid empowerment for freedom is, I free myself by letting go. And I love this because it shows the mermaid completely out of the water, reaching for this bird. So that means the freedom of feeling weighed down by the emotions, weighed down or suppressed by this feminine unconscious part of us, by doing some type of mindset work. So we start with this energy of gratitude, and the gratitude is building up our vibration. It's building up our energy. And then we're going to have to really focus on our mindset and figure out what we need to let go of, where we're clinging to something, whether that be a person or an outcome, whatever it is that we think is going to offer us happiness, completion. The more that we cling to something, the more suffering we're going to experience. So in this waxing moon, you're going to have to decide where you don't feel free and what you need to disconnect from. And the way that you can disconnect is by having gratitude. So you see how these things are building upon each other. Then as we move into full moon, we have surrender. And surrender is almost like the second step of freedom, right? You start to free yourself by letting go. And then the mermaid empowerment for surrender is I'm available for the best possible outcome. So again, it builds on each other, right? We have gratitude. We start to raise our vibration. As we raise our vibration, we're attracting situations to us. And we have to free ourselves from clinging to any one of those timelines or any one of those experiences and keep coming back to our heart, keep coming back to source. And then full moon is when we reach that full space of surrender where, and I love this card because, you know, if you see here, the mermaid has wings. She has these butterfly wings, which represent transformation. But because she's looking out, she doesn't even see this transformation that's occurring. It's almost like unconscious yet. Like she does not realize what's happening. And oftentimes we do experience that where there's a lot of inner work that happens for us first before we start to see changes in our external environment. So on the full moon, you've really got to figure out like, okay, where can I just say, once I align with God, once I align with the prayer for humanity, of unity, of love, and how can I contribute to that prayer? And then instead of trying to follow one path in your limited human perspective, you know that you're on the right track because if you're following the prayer of humanity for love, for grace, for compassion, obviously you're going to be on the highest timeline. And ultimately, you're going to receive that fullness that can only come from being in harmony with spirit. As we move into the waning moon, we have self-love. And the mermaid empowerment for self-love is I love the fins I'm in. So it's almost like we have to go through this letting go of all of this stuff that how we thought life was going to be, how we thought our service was going to look, how we thought our whatever was going to look. We have to let that go. We have to surrender it all, experience the freedom and gratitude that it takes for that surrender. And then we have to come back to ourselves and figure out, okay, where do I need to love myself more, acknowledge myself more, care for myself more so that I can receive the blessings that are in alignment with my truth. And so, you know, in the waning moon, there's going to be moments where that stuff comes up, the places that you may have kind of buried underneath that have caused you to reject parts of yourself. How can you begin to take all of those parts back into a deeper sense of self-love? And the theme for everything in the dark moon is believe. And the mermaid empowerment is I believe it and receive it. And so this card has probably the darkest colors of all of the deck because, you know, it's always darkest before the dawn, right? It's like, you know, if you've ever heard this saying, I'll believe it when I see it, that's the wrong way of looking at things because we have to have that gift of anticipation that good things are coming, that, you know, there's always that happy ending. Like every single story starts with once upon a time from the beginning of time, and then it ends and they lived happily ever after. Just imagine that every single story has that ending and that beginning. And yeah, the middle can look kind of messy, but the end will always be resolved. That's just the way it is. And so we have to believe in the power of grace and love and truth and unity that is here on this planet as a vibration that will take us out of the suffering and little by little transmute every molecule, every fiber, every electron of fear, of worry, of stress, of suffering into love. And as Richard Rudd shares, and has been such healing balm for me, is there's no rush. And there's no pressure. There doesn't have to be an urgency that, oh my God, the world's on fire. I need to be doing this. I need to be doing that, because that's that masculine energy of wanting to rush into action. Instead, we've got to come into that calm space of our feminine intuition and flow like water from one instance to the next, trusting our instinct, our intellect, all of it coming together to recognize that as long as we are available for the best possible outcome, as long as we continue to free ourselves by letting go, as long as we continue to have that attitude of gratitude and love ourselves exactly as we are, and we believe that the best is yet to come, that there are solutions, that we will get through this as a collective, that whatever situation that is hurting you in this moment that you have no idea how you're going to get out of, in whatever way you feel trapped, in whatever way you feel worried or scared, you can believe that the best is still yet to come, that there is this moment of transformation, of awakening. And so in the meantime, take all of these emotions, take all the fear, all the worry, whatever it is, take whatever is being projected as you, and continue to just take it and transmute it into love, beauty, creativity. So this month, you got to figure out, where is your creative outlet and how can you tune into that to create more beauty into the world. In the Pearl sequence of the Gene Keys, Richard Rudd talks about that, when we ask, how can I be of greatest service to the whole, we're automatically put into the highest timeline, because the universe will take your natural gifts and abilities, where you shine brightest, and then take you into a space where you can use those natural God-given abilities and gifts and use them to best serve the whole. And that's how you'll always be okay. So in those moments of fear or worry, ask, how can I serve? How can I love? How can I give? How can I bring someone else in this moment when I feel scared? What can I do to bring more beauty into my environment? So you might walk into a room and there's clutter, and you can just start to declutter, to open a window, to bring in flowers. Start with your own space. Figure out in this Taurian energy how to get into your body through the senses, and how to create more beauty through what you can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. Use music. Figure out what you want to dress yourself in that makes you feel good. And then start to begin to notice all of the beauty of the trees, the beauty of nature, the beauty of your child laughing, or of your partner's smile, or whatever it is. Train your eye for beauty, and then ask, how can I be in this space of beauty for healing of the whole? And that's where mermaid consciousness is, that space of healing the suffering through beauty and creativity. So yes, we acknowledge that there is this dark force on the planet, but we can also acknowledge that we have the power to transform that into beauty, one loving step at a time. So if you're interested in working with me on a deeper level, I offer Gene Key sessions. I offer intuitive card readings, very much like this one, but more unique to you. I also offer astrology and galactic channeled readings. If you're a creator yourself and you need support in your own creation, whether it's your website or you want help with video editing, there's all sorts of ways that I offer creative consulting for other creators. So take a look at my website, meaganmermaid.com. If you're not sure what the best route for you is, you can always book a free exploratory call and we can talk about how my gifts can best serve you and your mission. So thank you so much for being here. May you have a blessed and beautiful new moon, and know that you can believe, regardless of what is happening in this moment now, that the best is yet to come. I love you all. Have a wonderful day.